Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to our discussion today, Technology Tips to Hit Your Campaign Goals. I'm really excited to bring this content to you today. I know this is a topic on a lot of folks' minds, especially as we're getting ready to start planning campaigns in earnest. But before we dive in, I thought I'd just take a second to introduce myself for those of you who are new to our webinars. I'm Heather Fields, and I've been working on Giving Tuesday for 4 years. In 2013, I was the quarterback of a Giving Tuesday campaign for the city of Baltimore, which had a goal of raising $1 million. And it was a really exciting time. We had hundreds of nonprofits, foundations, and higher ed community leaders join together in our campaign. And we ultimately raised nearly $6 million in a single day on Giving Tuesday 2013. And since that time, I've been sharing the tools and the playbooks that we used with other campaign leaders around the world. For the last 2 years, I've worked specifically with higher ed outreach for the 92Y, who are the founders of Giving Tuesday. And in that role, I get to publish free resources and these webinars, these discussions. I like to bring these to you as well. But I also get to use my vantage point to see some really inspiring campaigns and hear about some best practices and some really terrific case studies that I try to bring to you. And today we're going to talk through some of those best practices with our presenter. But before we do that, I wanted to just let you know, too, it's been really exciting to watch Giving Tuesday continue to grow so steadily. Last year, we had 98 countries and territories that participated, and millions of people worldwide were donating to some amazing organizations, as well as donating volunteer hours and hosting other inspiring acts of giving on the day. On this slide, I just wanted to also kind of give you some interesting facts and data that we received related to Giving Tuesday last year. What's really exciting is Giving Tuesday is continuing to grow, and that impact, that meaningful impact, is being felt around the world. As you can see from the graphic, the Giving Tuesday partners are showing us there's growth in donors, as donors are looking for places to engage and give on Giving Tuesday. So we're seeing growth in donations, the number of donors, as well as social media engagement. And as I mentioned earlier, some of those amazing kind acts of generosity. But one of the universal things we've observed over 5 years is that organizations who plan ahead to participate on Giving Tuesday seem to be much better able to capitalize on this behavior and host really successful Giving Tuesday campaigns. And that brings us to today's presenter. I'm really excited to welcome Kestrel with GiveCampus. He's going to talk to us today, as I mentioned, about technology and what we should be thinking about now. Kestrel and his team are partners with Giving Tuesday, and we really appreciate the opportunity to work with them. As I mentioned earlier, they help us track Giving Tuesday trends, including that growth year over year. And I was recently familiarizing myself with some of their data from 2016. They published some really interesting data and trends related to Giving Tuesday as they can take a look across all of their school clients. And one stat that sort of popped out for me was 50% of the donations to the schools on their platform last year came from millennials. So you can kind of look at that two ways, like, wow, 50%, that's great, or wow, 50%, that's not so great. This is a really important stat overall, no matter how you interpret it, as schools look to increase participation from younger donors. And that same study that Kestrel's team put out shows that it's really important to reach the younger donors because we really need to help this generation learn giving behavior. So again, really excited to welcome Kestrel here today to talk about technology and some of the facts and data and trends that they see from their vantage point. Let's skip ahead one more slide. And Kestrel, I guess I'll turn it over to you. I'd love it if you could share a little bit more about yourself, your background, and the GiveCampus and your technology for our audience. And I'll go on mute while you do that so there isn't any background noise.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Heather. It's a pleasure to be with you and the audience for this webinar. I'm looking forward to sharing some technology tips for Giving Tuesday, which is right around the corner here. As you mentioned, I'm one of the co-founders of GiveCampus. GiveCampus is a technology company, and we build digital fundraising and volunteer management software exclusively for nonprofit educational institutions. We support the work of hundreds of schools across the country, ranging from small primary and even secondary schools to liberal arts colleges to major research universities, so every type of educational institution you can imagine. Our partners use GiveCampus and the tools that we provide for a variety of different purposes, including short-term giving challenges, things like crowdfunding and peer-to-peer fundraising, reunion fundraising campaign, athletics fundraising, capital campaigns, even student philanthropy. So a lot of different uses of our platform. And of course, they use GiveCampus for giving days. We support hundreds of giving days throughout the year, including many on Giving Tuesday. This year, in 2017, we expect more than 400 schools in the U.S. to host their Giving Tuesday campaigns on GiveCampus. And we expect that those 400 plus schools will be collectively raising on Giving Tuesday alone upwards of $20 million through those campaigns. One thing that's interesting to note and to know about GiveCampus as we dive into this discussion and as you start thinking about your Giving Tuesday plans is that the donors that we're seeing philanthropically support their schools on GiveCampus aren't just kids. Heather mentioned that a lot of the donors are millennials, people in their 20s and 30s. But one thing that's been really interesting to see as we've worked with more and more schools over the last several years, especially on Giving Tuesday, is that we're actually seeing just as many non-millennial donors giving through GiveCampus as we're seeing millennial donors. The donors who give on days like Giving Tuesday and other days throughout the year, they're ranging in age from 18 to 101. They're giving anywhere from a $1 gift to a $100,000 gift. And I think those are really poignant points, for folks on this webinar as they think about their Giving Tuesday plans. We're going to talk a lot about technology today and how technology can be used to more effectively engage people. And I think a lot of the things that I talk about, everyone will be shaking their heads, yes, that makes so much sense for people in their 20s and for people in their 30s. But as you optimize a lot of what you do on Giving Tuesday for 20-somethings and for 30-somethings, I'd also strongly encourage you not to ignore people in their 40s and their 50s and their 60s and their 70s even. Because what we see is that if you give Gen Xers and baby boomers the opportunity to participate alongside their children and even their grandchildren, the millennials, on Giving Tuesday, you'll probably be pretty pleasantly surprised by what happens on this Giving Tuesday. So that's just something to keep in the back of your mind. Heather, could we advance to the next slide? I'm actually not seeing how to advance the slides. There we go. Perfect. So the agenda for today's call, I'm going to talk first and foremost a little bit about when you should start thinking about Giving Tuesday technology and your technology profile on Giving Tuesday. There are a lot of ways to run a Giving Tuesday campaign. There are all sorts of things to plan and prepare for. But this webinar, as Heather mentioned in the introduction, is really going to focus on key considerations when it comes to technology. So I'll talk a little bit at the top of this webinar about the question of when should we start evaluating technology options. I'm also going to then dive into important things that you should be looking through. I'll talk through components that you should look for in any technology solution, no matter what it is, and I'll explain why each of those components are so critical to your ultimate success. My analysis of these components is going to be organized under the theme of optimizing for what I call the donor experience. And I'm going to talk about what I mean by donor experience and how you can better understand and appreciate this concept of donor experience. Although by no means an exhaustive list, the key components I'm going to focus on today, which are listed on this slide, I'm going to talk about optimizing your donor's experience for mobile devices. I'm going to talk about using video content. I'm going to talk about tapping into peer-to-peer fundraising and engagement. I'm going to talk about offering people real-time statistics and data during your Giving Tuesday campaign and the importance of that. And I'm going to talk about the value of keeping things as simple as possible, which will include possibly some counterintuitive facts to share with you today. And finally, I'll close out the webinar with a little bit about the importance of finding a technology solution or perhaps multiple technology solutions that provide you with data and analytics about your Giving Tuesday campaign so that you can figure out what worked and what didn't, and with that data and with those insights, do even better next year. So with that in mind as our roadmap for today, I'm going to dive in here and start us off talking a little bit, about timeline for planning your Giving Tuesday campaign. When should you start thinking about technology for Giving Tuesday? Well, might not be a surprise. The bottom line is that it's never too early to start thinking about this question. Giving Tuesday is less than 4 months away, and you want to give yourself plenty of time to evaluate your options, to weigh the pros and cons, to think through the ROI that different solutions offer or promise, and to figure out which solution or which solutions are best for you and your school, given your goals for Giving Tuesday. As many on this webinar probably already know, coming to a decision about a technology solution can sometimes take a little bit longer than you expect, so getting started today certainly won't hurt. Another reason you want to get started as early as possible is that you want to give yourself time to learn the product or learn the products you will be using on Giving Tuesday, to learn the best practices for using that particular product, and to understand what success with that product can look like for you specifically. At GiveCampus, for example, in the lead up to Giving Tuesday, we offer all of our partner schools a series of planning resources, a series of training webinars, and we hold one-on calls with each of them to talk about their strategy and to help ensure that they're prepared to get maximum value out of the technology that they're using. If you wait until November to make a decision on technology, you'll risk missing out on those sorts of opportunities. And I can tell you from our experience that the schools who tap into and leverage those opportunities to learn best practices and really prepare for their use of a certain technology, those are typically the schools who see the greatest success on Giving Tuesday. So you want to plan and optimize for that. As you evaluate your technology options for Giving Tuesday, let's talk a little bit about what I mean by donor experience. Well, as you evaluate options, I recommend that you try to put yourself in the shoes of one of your donors and that you think about what we call the donor experience. What will it be like on Giving Tuesday to make a gift to your school, for example? Is it going to be easy? Is it going to be hard? Will I be able to do it in 45 seconds or less, or is it going to take me 5 minutes? How am I going to initially learn about your Giving Tuesday campaign? Am I going to receive an email? Will I see a Facebook post from a friend or from you at the school? If I click through from that email or that Facebook post, what content will you have for me to consume? Will it be engaging content that captures my interest? Will I be able to view that content easily and watch it on my iPhone? These are the sorts of questions that you'll want to optimize for, and this is what we mean when we're talking about the donor experience. And these are important questions not only because this is just general good practice, but also because you'll be competing on Giving Tuesday for your prospective donors' time and attention with websites and web apps that are incredibly skilled at providing a delightful experience to their users. And their users are your prospective donors on Giving Tuesday. And when I talk about these other websites and web apps and this competition that you face, I'm not talking about other schools or other nonprofits, to be clear. I'm talking about the websites where your donors or your prospective donors are spending an enormous share of their time. I'm talking about websites like Amazon and Facebook, both of which many people use every single day. People use these websites like Amazon and Facebook. They use them habitually, and they do that because these websites provide a great experience to their users, because they're easy to use, because they're fun, and because the value they deliver is delivered almost perfectly. If you're asking a prospective donor of yours to take a quick break from Facebook on Giving Tuesday to make a charitable gift to your school, you should therefore be asking yourself, am I providing this prospective donor with an experience that can compete with Facebook? And if you aren't, or you feel not so confident that you are, you can assume that you're going to have a challenge winning people's time and attention. So, how can you do that? And what key components should you look for in technology to help you win that battle for donors' time and attention? Well, the first thing that I'll recommend in the realm of creating a great donor experience is, first and foremost, without question, top of the list, ensuring that your technology solution, or maybe multiple solutions, ensuring that they empower you to meet your prospective donors on mobile devices. And people talk about this all the time. It should go without saying, but I continue to be surprised by how many schools do not provide their constituents with good mobile experiences. The reason that mobile is so important in the context of not only Giving Tuesday, but frankly any fundraising that you're doing, is that the channels you are using to engage your constituents on Giving Tuesday are primarily mobile channels. If you're sending people emails, for example, it is most likely that they are reading those emails on mobile devices. If you're posting on social media to try to reach people, it is almost certain that they are seeing those posts on their mobile devices. Last Giving Tuesday, we had hundreds of schools using GiveCampus, and 46%, almost half of all of the traffic we saw to schools' Giving Tuesday pages was traffic coming from people on mobile devices. And I encourage you to think about it this way. If you send an email to me on Giving Tuesday, let's say I'm one of your prospective donors. If you send me an email, you're fighting a tough battle just to get me to open that email. I'm sure everybody on this call tracks or would like to track the open rates of your emails. And some of you know that if you're getting about 25% of the people that you email to just open the email, you're doing pretty good. That's a decent open rate. That's only 1 in 4 of the people that you're emailing, though. That means that 3 out of 4 people aren't even opening that email that you're sending. Now, if I'm one of those people who opens your email, and let's say, like I said, you're doing about 25%, so 1 in 4 people. Now that I've opened that email, you're fighting another tough battle to get me to click through from that email to somewhere where I can make my gift. Again, here, if you're getting 25% of the people who open your email to click through, you're doing pretty good. And again, that's only 1 in 4 people who've opened your email. So now we're down from 16 people who got an email to 1 person who opened that email and clicked through to the ultimate destination you were trying to send them to, a place where they can make a gift. If that vast majority of people who are opening your email and clicking through from your email are on mobile devices, you want to make absolutely sure that those people are going to easily be able to make their gift on that same mobile device. Because one thing that I can tell you almost no one is going to do is open your email on their mobile device, click through from your email on their mobile device, arrive at that destination where you want them to make their gift on their mobile device, see a not-so-friendly mobile experience, and then go find their laptop, open it up to make a gift from their laptop. Nobody's going to do that. So you want to make sure that you're positioned to win that third and final key battle. Get them to open your email, get them to click through, and then make sure they can easily make their gift from that mobile device. And if you're sitting watching this webinar wondering, I wonder how we do on mobile, I'll offer you what I call the mobile truth test. And I encourage everyone on this call, even if you think your school does really great here, to take this quick test to assess the quality of your mobile donor experience. And this test is really simple. All you have to do is pull out your phone, and if you've got a stopwatch, pull out a stopwatch. And then on your phone, navigate to your school's website or your school's giving form and start your stopwatch as soon as you get there. And I want you to see if you can make a gift to your school from your mobile phone in 45 seconds or less. If you can or if you can't, think about why, and just think about what is the experience like that you're having right now as you try to make this gift to your school in 45 seconds or less. And the reason that I encourage you to do 45 seconds or less is that on the internet, 45 seconds is actually a lot of time. People are very impatient on the internet, especially on their mobile devices. So you probably won't have even 45 seconds for most people. If they can't do it in 45 seconds, they might give up and go away. So when you do this exercise, I encourage you to be a really tough critic, because the reality is that your donors certainly are going to be tough as they evaluate this. I'm realizing now, sorry, that I failed to click through some of the slides as I was talking about that mobile experience. So I'm going to pause for a moment so everyone can see these slides. Sorry about that. This is the slide where I was talking about meeting people on mobile devices and talking about the importance of meeting people on mobile if you're sending emails or consuming social media. And then this was a slide walking you through that mobile truth test that I just described. My next recommendation as you think about technology for Giving Tuesday is to think about video and think about using video. Because the next key component of a great donor experience and something that you should be looking for in a technology solution is the ability to use video. Video is no longer an up-and-coming marketing tactic. It's here, and it's a very powerful way to communicate your story, to explain your value proposition, to make your case for support, and to build relationships with your donors and your prospects. In fact, it's now a scientifically proven reality that video is the most effective way to engage people on the internet. So insofar as your Giving Tuesday campaign is a digital fundraising initiative, you're going to want to use video. This is why Facebook and Snapchat and Instagram and Twitter and everyone else is investing so heavily in video. If you want to capture someone's attention on the internet, video is the best way to do it. And when you're looking at technology for Giving Tuesday, video and mobile should be the things arguably at the top of your list. It's got to be mobile friendly, and it's got to offer you the opportunity to deliver video content to your prospective donors. One way to summarize the importance of video is to look at this goldfish. This goldfish is named Fred. Fred lives, as you can see, in a small bowl, and he's pretty cute. He likes to read, he likes to play board games, and he likes to eat several times a day. Fred also has an attention span of 9 seconds. That's right, 9 seconds. The average goldfish has an attention span of 9 seconds. That means that Fred can only focus on something on average for 9 seconds before he gets distracted and shifts his attention elsewhere. The reason that Fred matters for you is that although Fred might sound like he needs to learn how to focus a little bit more, he is actually better at maintaining his focus than your prospective donors are. That's right. Humans have an average attention span of only 8.25 seconds. That's 0.75 seconds worse than our good friend Fred here. As a result of this short attention span, when humans are navigating around the internet, and when they're clicking from website to website and reading their email and using Facebook and things like that, they routinely stay on websites for no more than 5 to 10 seconds because they get distracted by something else, they get bored, and they leave. In fact, about 1 in 5 visits to websites across the whole World Wide Web, about 1 in 5 of them lasts less than 5 seconds. People are really fickle with their time, especially on the internet, and with their attention. That means that if you win the battle to get me to open your email, as I was describing earlier, and then you win that battle to get me to click through from your email, as I was describing earlier, and then you win that battle of keeping me on the website or the giving form, on my mobile phone because you've focused on that mobile donor experience, you still have only about 5 to 10 seconds to win the next battle. And that's the battle to keep me on that website and deliver your case for support to me in a way that I'll pay attention. Video is the best way to do this, bar none. And the reason that video is the best way to do this is pretty simple. Foremost among all the reasons why video is the best is the fact that the human brain can process video content 60,000 times as fast as it can process text. That means that if you want to capture my attention and hold it, and you only have a few seconds, you're going to be 60,000 times as lucky with a video as you will be with text. Additionally, when someone is watching a video, their mental and emotional state is normally one of feeling. The sensors that are firing in their brains are feeling sensors. By contrast, when someone is reading text, their mental and emotional state is one of thinking and analysis. And when you're making a case for support, your chances of success are much greater if you can place someone in that feeling state or on that feeling end of the spectrum. So as you evaluate your technology options for Giving Tuesday, I would strongly recommend that you look for solutions that will allow you to deliver video content to your constituents. It is the best way to get your message across and to capture people's attention. As you're thinking about video, its content, the value of that video, this isn't necessarily specific to the technology solution that you choose, but I've got to share it with you because it's a really important point. You should be focusing not only on finding technology that can help you deliver video, but also focus on solutions and strategies that will allow you to leverage user-generated content. Over the last decade, major commercial brands have all discovered that content generated by users, by real people, generates significantly higher engagement than content that is generated by that brand. And the same rule applies to fundraising and to you and your work. The woman pictured here on this slide, if you've never seen her before, this is Candace. And Candace is one of the most powerful illustrations of what I just described, the importance and the value of user-generated content. Last year, Candace went to Kohl's, and she purchased a Chewbacca mask at Kohl's. You can see her wearing that Chewbacca mask in the screenshot on the right side of this slide. She was so excited about this purchase that when she got back to her car, in the parking lot outside of Kohl's, she opened up Facebook and she live streamed a video to her friends. In the video, she talked about buying the mask. She made sure everybody knew that the mask was for her. This wasn't for anybody else. She put the mask on and she laughed uncontrollably. It's a really awesome video. If you've never seen it, I encourage you to go to YouTube after this webinar, search for Candace Chewbacca or Chewbacca mask. I'm sure it's the top hit on YouTube. It's worth 4 minutes of your time. So what's the big deal with Candace in this video? Well, although Candace intended to share this video with her social network on Facebook, just her friends, she actually ended up sharing this video with tens of millions of people because this video went viral. People who saw it shared it, and those people shared it, and those people shared it, and those people shared it. Ultimately, this video was watched more than 153 million times last year. In the video that was watched by tens of millions of people, guess what Candace did? She mentioned Kohl's, the store where she had bought the mask. And she mentioned Kohl's on 2 occasions in the span of about 5 minutes. What happened for Kohl's? Well, Kohl's, their app, quickly rose to the top of the most popular app list in the Apple iOS App Store. Needless to say, demand for that Chewbacca mask also went through the roof. Effectively, Candace's personal user-generated video was the best advertisement probably ever for Kohl's, and they had virtually no role in it. It was just Candace in her car in the parking lot, live streaming video onto Facebook. So the key takeaway here is that not only do you want to look for the opportunity to use video, and that this should be a key component of whatever technology solution you choose for Giving Tuesday, but that the best video content you can provide to people is video content that is authentic, that's entertaining. Maybe it's a little raw. You know, Candace sitting in her car here in the parking lot, this isn't a professionally produced video. It's raw content. It's also content that evokes emotion, and it's content that is really relatable. Candace is really relatable. Most of us have had that moment where we're just really excited. We want to share with everybody. We're giggling. We're laughing about something. This video was awesome for all of those reasons. So as you're thinking about using video and thinking about a platform that will allow you to not only put up your own video, but also perhaps let users generate their own content, I would encourage you to keep those fundamentals in mind. If you do so, you'll definitely be on the right track this Giving Tuesday. My next tip as you think about technology for Giving Tuesday is to carefully consider whether the technology that you're looking at or considering is going to enable you to leverage the power of peer-to-peer engagement. This, in my mind, is really what Giving Tuesday is all about. It's about the power of people. And I encourage you to look for a solution or multiple solutions that will help you harness that power. Good fundraisers have long said that people give to people, and there are now studies like the Millennial Impact Report that consistently show that peers, our friends, our colleagues, our teammates, our coworkers, play a really important role in our giving decisions. It's no surprise, therefore, that the schools across the country, not only in higher ed, but also in the K-12 realm, the schools with the highest rates of alumni participation almost always are schools that heavily focus on peer-to-peer fundraising. And that's not to say that you need to have a really robust peer-to-peer fundraising program in place already on Giving Tuesday. But it does mean that you should look for technology that will help you leverage the power of peer-to-peer fundraising and peer-to-peer engagement. A platform that's going to make it easy for people to share with each other, for example. Last year on Giving Tuesday, nearly a third of all of the traffic that we saw to schools' Giving Tuesday campaigns on GiveCampus was traffic that was coming from social media platforms, primarily from Facebook. And approximately 14% of all of the people who made gifts on Giving Tuesday through our platform last year were people who were making gifts in direct response to an ask or a Facebook post or some type of sharing or solicitation from one of their peers, and not a solicitation or a piece of marketing from a school. And that's a really powerful statistic to keep in mind. Imagine if 14% of your donors are people making gifts thanks to other people sharing with them. How do you accomplish that? Again, you don't necessarily need to have a really robust peer-to-peer fundraising program in place already. If you do, you're in great shape. 3 really simple things that I encourage you to look for as you evaluate technology for Giving Tuesday. Number 1, look for a solution that offers a real-time donor list. Donors want to be able to see who the other donors are. By the way, they also love being recognized in real time. When you can see who the other donors are, this introduces not only some really nice social reinforcement. For example, if you see a friend on the donor list, that's reinforcing for you. If you also see a lot of people on the list, that's really reinforcing. It can also introduce some positive peer pressure. If I see that several of my classmates have made a gift already on Giving Tuesday to my school, I'm a lot more inclined to give myself. So however you do this, I encourage you to make sure you've got a real-time donor list on Giving Tuesday. The second piece of advice, again, really basic. Make sure you're using technology that makes it very easy for your donors to share, especially on Facebook. We allow donors to share on Facebook, on Twitter, by text message, by email, even by Snapchat. And we can see that Facebook is not only the preferred method for many people to share, by and large, it's also the most effective at getting other people to come check out your Giving Tuesday page. Turns out that it takes a lot more Twitter and a lot more tweets to drive somebody to a Giving Tuesday page than it takes Facebook posts. So I'd encourage you to optimize for that. Last but not least, and this is a nice follow-up to what we were just talking about with video content, look for technology that makes it easy for your users to generate their own content, especially video. If I can watch a video of a friend of mine or someone that I know or respect talking on camera on Giving Tuesday, describing perhaps why they made their gift already, asking me or more generally other people in my community to support our school on Giving Tuesday, that is really powerful and will help you tap into the power of peer-to-peer fundraising and peer-to-peer engagement. So those are some really simple recommendations. And if you or anyone in your office, colleagues, teammates are dubious or skeptical of the power of this idea of peer-to-peer engagement, I would just remind them of this, the Ice Bucket Challenge. The Ice Bucket Challenge took off, frankly, without any organizational push behind it. It was organized by individuals, by peers sharing with one another, and we all know what happened and the huge success of this campaign. Another recommendation related to tapping into the power of peer-to-peer engagement that doesn't require anything really fancy and doesn't require years of work. It's something you can put together in the time that remains between today and Giving Tuesday, is finding some ways to incentivize people to share and to connect people to the impact that their sharing is having, and to make sure that you're recognizing those advocates just like you recognize your donors. In an ideal world, on Giving Tuesday, you want to find a way to tie giving and sharing together as two equally important steps in the process of participating in your Giving Tuesday campaign. And if you can find a way to incentivize people, then that can be as simple, by the way, as offering them recognition. You'll be able to see who's sharing on Giving Tuesday, and there's technology that will let you do that. If you can take it a step further and connect those individuals and represent them in real time and the impact that they're having in real time, like you see Edgar Jones here, that's going to be really powerful. It's going to make people more interested in sharing, and it's going to make the people who are doing the sharing feel really good about their sharing. Just like you're investing time and resources and making people feel very good about giving, I encourage you to look for technology and other ways to make sure that people who are sharing know that you appreciate those efforts as well. Next up on my list of things to consider as you're thinking about technology for Giving Tuesday is to think about the value of real-time tracking and real-time results. You want people to be able to see who the donors are in real time. So you want a nice real-time donor list, as I mentioned already. You want people to be able to see how close you are to your goal throughout the day on Giving Tuesday. So you'll want real-time tracking, whether your goal is to raise a certain amount of money or have a certain level of participation. Look for technology that allows you to show people how close you're getting to that goal in real time as the day progresses. Lastly, if you're able to harness matching funds or challenge gifts, look for technology that will offer your donors and prospective donors the ability to see those matching funds, to see those challenge gifts, and track your progress against those matches and challenges in real time. If there's a $500,000 challenge or a $50,000 challenge or a $10,000 challenge on the table for your school, and that challenge gift is going to be unlocked if other donors participate at a certain level or give a certain amount, make sure your donors know how close you are to that goal. That will encourage people not only to share, it will encourage them to give, obviously. If I see that we're really close to our goal, we're 2 donors away from that goal, and I have the power to get us 1 more donor closer, I'm a lot more likely to make my gift. It's no longer sufficient, frankly, in this day and age to update people afterwards or even to update them periodically. You can't say, hey, come back and check in every few hours. We'll be updating the numbers. Nobody wants to do that. People need and they want, and frankly, they expect real-time information, real-time updates, real-time feedback on what's happening. And this is a key thing you can look for in a technology solution. That real-time element of Giving Tuesday is going to help cultivate additional interest from people, and it's going to make Giving Tuesday a lot more fun, not only for your donors, but for you too, to be able to see where you stand as the day progresses. My next tip, as you think about creating a great donor experience and optimizing for that donor experience on Giving Tuesday, and as you look for technology to help you accomplish that, is to think about keeping it simple. Technology, and there's a lot of great technology out there, it can help you accomplish a lot of things. It can empower you to do a lot of things. But if all of those things that you want to do and want to accomplish with technology end up complicating the donor experience, you're going to see suboptimal results. There's a really famous psychological study that's known as the JAM study that illustrates how complicating things, in this case, in the study's case, by offering consumers too many choices of jam, actually reduces the likelihood that your target user will take the action that you want them to take. So in your case, the action that you want people to take is you want them to make a gift. And you also want them to share, right, to tap into that peer-to-peer engagement. In the JAM study, the researchers found that consumers were 10 times less likely to purchase jam when the number of jams available to them to choose was increased from 6 to 24. And that's really interesting to think about, that actually providing people with more choice and a more complex decision to make actually reduced the likelihood that they made a decision at all. They were 10 times less likely to buy jam. You want to be careful to make sure that as you harness technology, and as you do other things, frankly, this doesn't apply only to technology, you make sure you are not overcomplicating things, that you're keeping things nice and simple for your prospective donors, because that's a key component of a really great donor experience and a key to success on Giving Tuesday. When you introduce too many options and too many choices and too much complexity, you introduce what's known as the paradox of choice, which is this powerful phenomenon that basically means if you give me too much choice, I'm going to be a little bit more stressed out, and I'm actually going to be less likely to do what you want me to do. So if you give people too many choices, if you complicate the donor experience on Giving Tuesday too much, you might actually be doing yourself a disservice. And you can apply this fundamental rule across the entire donor experience. When someone lands on your Giving Tuesday page, how complex is it? Is it easy to tell what's going on? Is it easy to see what they're supposed to do? Is it easy to figure out how to watch your video? Is it easy to see how to make a gift? When they're making that gift, are there all sorts of choices that you're providing them with that maybe they don't necessarily want or need? When you send them an email, is your email clean and simple? Are you clear about what you're talking about? Simplicity on Giving Tuesday is bliss. So those are my tips for optimizing a great user experience for Giving Tuesday. The final thing I want to talk about before moving on is data and analytics. As you prepare for Giving Tuesday, and as you plan for Giving Tuesday, and as you think about technology and how to incorporate technology and different technology options that are out there into your Giving Tuesday plans and strategy, in addition to optimizing for the donor experience and doing all of the things that we've talked about, things like making sure the mobile experience is really great and thinking about using video and looking for technology where it'll be easy to use video content, and thinking about how you can use technology to tap into peer-to-peer fundraising and engagement, and looking for opportunities to track your progress in real time and looking for ways to make things as simple as possible for your donors and others so that you don't introduce this paradox where they're actually less likely to do things and not more likely to do them. I also encourage you to think about data and analytics. Giving Tuesday is not going anywhere. I feel pretty confident saying that. I'm sure Heather does too. As she noted in her introduction, Giving Tuesday has become a global giving movement in just a few short years, and I think we should all expect it to be a part of our strategies as fundraisers for many years to come, something that we're going to want to be thinking about and talking about and incorporating into our year-long strategies. So as you're thinking about technology specifically, be sure to look for solutions that are going to provide you with data and analytics on this year's Giving Tuesday campaign. Data and analytics that will help you figure out the day after Giving Tuesday and the week after and the month after and next year around this time as you're planning for Giving Tuesday 2018, data and analytics that will help you figure out what worked well and what didn't. For example, which marketing of yours was most effective? Which was least effective? Which marketing piece gave you the greatest ROI? Data and analytics that will help you understand your strengths and weaknesses when it comes to that donor experience. For example, what does your mobile conversion rate look like? If people ended up on your Giving Tuesday page on a mobile device, what percentage of them actually made a gift? How does that percentage compare to the conversion rate for people who are on desktop computers or laptop computers? Are you strong on mobile? Are you weak on mobile? That'll give you cues for next year on where you can improve and also strengths that you can play into. These sorts of data and analytics will be absolutely critical to helping you enhance your strategy, not only for next year's Giving Tuesday campaign, but I'm sure, as you can appreciate, for all of the fundraising that you do in between Giving Tuesdays as well. So I encourage you, again, to look for technology that's going to allow you to do this. Because one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to have a really great Giving Tuesday in a few months and then look back and say, I wonder why it was so successful. You want to know why it was successful. You want to know areas where if you'd improved in some way, it can actually be even more successful next year. And technology is something that can set you up to be very informed in those areas. So definitely be thinking about this as you think about technology for Giving Tuesday. To recap really quickly, and then I'll turn it over to you, Heather, my tips for Giving Tuesday as it relates to technology. Number one, get your Giving Tuesday technology sorted out today. I recommend looking for a solution that's going to allow you to optimize that donor experience that I described, something that's going to work really well on mobile devices, something that will allow you and perhaps even your users, your donors, to use video content and engage people with video, something that helps you tap into those peer-to-peer dynamics. And again, that doesn't need to be building a really robust class agent program if you don't already have one. It's as simple as making sure that sharing is easy to do on your Giving Tuesday page. Making sure that you've got real-time tracking in place so people have that real-time data that they're hungry for and real-time feedback. And making sure that your donor experience is simple. It's not overly complex. It's easy for people to understand what's going on, what they need to do, and they don't have too many choices and decisions to make along the way. And last but not least, make sure you find a technology solution or perhaps multiple solutions that set you up to collect data and analytics so that you can learn what worked, anything that didn't work, and achieve even greater success next year. Thanks so much for joining me today. And with that, Heather, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, Kestrel, thank you. That was great. There's so much great information there. I think you've really addressed most of the questions that I hear from our higher ed audience. So I'm really excited to get this out and ask and encourage everybody that's listening right now to share this presentation on to others on their teams and across our campuses. For those who are watching right now, I also wanted to call attention, Kestrel is more than happy to take additional questions. If there's something that you wanted to drill into or you have more questions about GiveCampus or anything that Kestrel presented today, we've got the email here on screen. It's info@givecampus.com, and Kestrel or one of his team will get back to you right away. I guess I'd like to always close out these webinars with one last question, Kestrel, so put you on the spot a little bit. Was there any one kind of aha moment that kind of stands out for you from last year, something you saw across your schools on Giving Tuesday, or maybe just one thing that really stands out that you could share with the audience? We always like to kind of hear some of these little inspiring tidbits, lessons learned, or aha moments, unexpected things related to Giving Tuesday.
Yeah, that's a great question, and my brain is running and racing right now to try to figure out if I had to boil it all down to one thing, what would it be? And it would be a cop-out to say it's that donor experience, because as I just walked through, that donor experience is comprised of a lot of really important elements. I think really the key thing, as we looked at the data from last year's Giving Tuesday in particular, last year, I think certainly from the schools that we work with, we saw that Giving Tuesday is here and it's here to stay, and it's a really great vehicle for educational institutions to use as part of their year-long strategy. The thing that we saw in the data that was really surprising and definitely an aha moment was around mobile devices and social media. And those were two of the stats that I shared during this webinar, that 46% of people who were visiting schools' Giving Tuesday pages through our platform were on mobile devices, and 30% of them were coming from social media. And most of those 30% were coming from Facebook, to break that stat a little bit further down. And those two, by the way, go really closely together, because as I shared, people who are on Facebook or other social media, by and large, are consuming that social media on mobile devices. And I think that's, if nothing else from this webinar, schools should be, the folks on this webinar should really be optimizing for that, making sure that they are positioned to meet people on mobile devices. Still in this day and age, many schools are not. And as they look at technology solutions, make sure that you are, and make sure that you're setting yourself up for a Giving Tuesday campaign where people are getting the word out on social media, where individuals are sharing and talking about their giving on social media. You need to make that really easy, because I think that 30% number, frankly, it's really impressive that 1 in 3 people was coming from Facebook. I think that the higher your number is as a school, when you look at what percentage of our visitors are coming from Facebook, ultimately that leads to greater results overall. Because if they're coming from Facebook, that probably means they came because of a post from someone they know, which probably means you're tapping into that peer-to-peer element. And that probably means that someone's going to be more inclined to actually make a gift. So that was the aha moment from the data we saw last year, is Giving Tuesday for schools is a mobile and a social event. That's
great. Well, thank you again for sharing that. And then just lastly for the audience, if you have any questions for me, my email's on screen. It's hfieldsmarketing@gmail.com. And I would love to hear from you and offer any help that I can as well when it comes to Giving Tuesday on your campus. And with that, we're going to end today's discussion. Again, Kestrel, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time and all of that great expertise sharing. Hope you have a great afternoon. Thank you. Bye-bye.